Hello, Spooklets. Welcome back to the channel.
Today we're going to delve into the internet and look at some of the real scary stories that are on there that people have decided to tell us.
I'm quite excited about this, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, you heard me.
Creepy me.
We're gonna look today at some of the scariest stories on the internet. Alright, these are apparently real scary stories. I'm excited. You excited? Who are you? You're new. Hit subscribe for spooky shit. Also, massive thank you to the channel members. You guys are legends. Okay, so today, that is a floorboard, that is not my arse. Today we're looking at 50 true scary stories that will give you goosebumps, and this is on Thought Catalogue, as you can see there. Okay, right, this floorboard's done made in strop 8. Maybe if I spread my legs a bit and then I'm not stood on it. Why did I pick here to stand? Now I look really short. Just stand still. Okay, so story 1. My mum was driving and a guy ran out in the road. So she stopped so she couldn't see him. It was night time, so it was pretty dark out, and 3 other men emerged from the forest around, all trying to use the door handles of her car to get in. Oh. She locked them luckily and gassed it to the nearest town. Well done. Remember to always lock your car after you start it, because if it was unlocked, who knows what would have happened to her. Yeah. Oh my days, that is a scary thought. That is a scary thought. Like I say, these are true stories that people have put in. So, ugh. Okay, my friend's boss bought an Audi A4 convertible back when they were new and interesting. One of the talking points was the pop-up roll hoops that were hidden unless you rolled it. Right, I know nothing about cars, so this means nothing to me. A few months after buying it, he got to test those roll hoops out, as he lost control and skidded down a steep bank about 10 metres, 35 feet deep. The roll hoops did their job and he survived with just cuts and scratches from the bushes he ploughed through. I ain't got a clue what roll hoops are. Let me know in the comments, because I ain't got it. In fact, no, there's no point in letting me know in the comments because I ain't got a clue about cars. But whatever it was, they worked. Okay, that's great. The car ended up the right way up and he got out. Is that what the roll hoops do? Right, well, no, Susie, shush. Walked back up the bank to the side of the road, then got on the phone to the police to report the accident. While he was standing there, a driver from a car that had seen the accident came over to speak to him. Approaching from behind, the other driver asked if he was okay. My friend's boss turned round to reply and dropped dead. His neck had been fractured but was in one piece right up until he turned his head when it severed his spinal cord. Oh my days. That is creepy. That is... Okay, my mum's friend had a small house and lived alone. She noticed weird things: a batch of soup depleting faster than usual, missing eggs, damp towels in the hamper when she hadn't used any, extra dishes in the dishwasher. Slenderman is in your loft! If you've seen previous videos, you'll understand. This went on for months. She thought she was just being forgetful. One day she heard something thumping around in her attic. Told ya, Slenderman! Telling ya! And went to investigate. She found some makeshift living quarters, small radio, hot plate, sleeping bag, pillow, food wrappers, etc. She called the cops, who came to keep an eye on the place. They ended up catching a homeless man climbing a tree trying to sneak into her attic window. He had been doing this almost daily. He would wait for her to go to work, then go downstairs and help himself to food and amenities. The funny part about this story is they got to know each other throughout the ordeal, and the guy was actually very respectful, just down on his luck. She didn't press charges, instead let him move in, helped him get a job, and he lived in the attic until he got back on his feet. Creepy shit with a happy ending. That is a happy ending, but it is still really creepy. I'm glad it wants Slenderman. He's still in my loft. Okay, Artemis Pyle, the drummer from, I think I'm saying his name right, Lynyrd Skynyrd, I ain't got a clue who this is, survived a plane crash and walked to a nearby house, only to be shot by the homeowner. The homeowner saw a bloody long-haired man and winged him. Pyle survived that as well and made a full recovery. Wow, what a day. Okay, I work at a max security prison and we have several inmates who are severely mentally ill. The ones that self-harm wear a Fitbit kind of thing to monitor heart rate. If there is a change, we rush to their room to stop whatever is happening. On top of this, we also do visual inspections. On one round, a co-worker was doing cell checks and noticed this particular inmate had blood on their face, but nothing came up on the monitors or anything. So he called to the inmates to ask if they were okay. The inmate had their eyes closed and just kept repeating, "It doesn't hurt." The inmate would not answer where the blood was from. We opened the cell to see what the situation was, and it turns out the inmate had plucked out both of their eyes and they were laying on the floor. The inmate's HR monitor never alerted and the inmate never screamed. Paramedics said the inmate's vitals were normal and the inmate was fully responsive. That is so creepy. Like, he said it doesn't hurt. Do you know what I mean? If you're in pain, your heart rate's going to go up. And it didn't go up. I don't understand. That is really creepy. Okay, before my dad died, he once told me, floorboard, a story from when he was in Vietnam in the 1960s. He told me about a mission where he and one other American with 5 CIDG strikers, South Vietnamese villagers turned fighters, were tasked to emplace seismic ground sensors along a trail network deep in the jungle. He said they were about 2 days into the mission when he and 2 of the strikers split off from the main group to go watch a nearby trail intersection. He said the jungle was pretty quiet that day, just the sounds of birds and bugs and occasional monkey. He said they'd been watching the trail intersection for about 3 or 4 hours and were deciding on whether to move further down the trail or to turn back and link up with the rest of the patrol. Before leaving the cover of the brush, my dad said he checked the trail ahead of them one last time and prepared his men to move. Now here is where the story gets interesting, and he told this part with absolute dead seriousness. He said just as he started to step out onto the trail, he sees a light-skinned black Union cavalry soldier in full battle gear laying alongside the trail just shy of the intersection. My dad said the Union soldier had 2 pistols, a Spencer rifle and a short curved club at his hip. As my dad was trying to process what he was seeing, the soldier looked directly at him and smiled. Then the soldier slowly placed a finger up to his lips as if to tell him to be silent and then motioned my dad back off the trail. My dad said he signalled for his men to remain hidden, and he recalled that as he slipped back into the jungle on one side of the trail, the Union soldier did the same on his side of the trail. Less than 10 seconds later, he said the lead element of a group of NVA walked straight through the trail intersection some 30 feet away. My dad estimated that the group was comprised of some 70 to 80 soldiers equipped with automatic rifles, light machine guns and rocket-propelled grenade launchers. He has no doubt that this entire team would have been wiped out on the spot. He said as soon as the enemy soldiers had passed, he and his team beat feet out of there as fast and as quietly as they could and rejoined with the rest of the patrol. He reported the enemy soldiers his team had encountered but decided not to say anything about the soldier he had seen. My dad kept this secret for many, many years, only telling me just before he passed and earlier only telling his grandmother on her deathbed in 1970s. He said when he told his grandmother, she smiled and without opening her eyes told him, "You saw old Red Tom." Red Tom was my great-grandfather. He was a half-black, half-Creek free man who was a scout of the Union Army during the Civil War and later served with the US cavalry in the American West. He was known for carrying 2 pistols, a Spencer rifle and a Creek war club into battle. Oh, so he came to warn him. Oh, so we've got a ghost story, guys. We've got a ghost story. That was really interesting to read. Not gonna lie, the story had me on edge as well. But it was really cool to read. Thank you to his great-great-great-great-grandfather. When my aunt was about 16, she was working at a grocery store. When my aunt was about 16, she was working at a grocery store and had a boss in his mid-20s. One day he called the house and was begging her to sneak out and hang out with him. She was considering it because it was her boss and she didn't want to say no. My mum, who is 2 years younger than her, always gets these incredibly spot-on gut feelings. She had one that night and begged my aunt not to go out with him. Thankfully, she listened to my mum and told him no, which made him really angry. He ended up going out that night and meeting another girl. He took her out to some cliffs and did something and pushed her off. Somehow she lives through this and was able to get him sent to prison. I feel so sorry for that girl and so thankful for my mum and her gut feelings. I spent my first 10 years... Oh, this is a new one. Always trust your gut. Always trust your gut. That is something I have learnt to do. Trust your gut. Trust your gut. You've got a sense in there, in your gut. I mean, if it's not hunger, something is going on, I'm telling you. Mine tends to be hunger. Okay, I'm not reading that one. No. Okay, some of these stories are not YouTube friendly, so I'm having to go through them. Can't read that one either. Okay, I was in a crappy motel. The room had bed bugs. I was too exhausted to go to the front desk. I just needed to make it until the morning. I slept in the tub. Hours later, I hear someone breaking through the window. I had a big knife with me and ran out into the room to find a man halfway through my window. We stared for a while at each other in shock. I think we both were scared. Then he said, "Is this your room?" I'm like, "Yes, this is my room, man." More staring. Then he slowly starts backing out while cursing me for leaving my window unlocked and not expecting him to break in. Oh, literally my worst nightmare is someone breaking in. I know he's in a motel, but still, motel, home, tent, train. People sleep on trains. I was just going to say plane. No one can break in on a plane. It's up in the sky. You could you? No, I'm not getting into this. Yeah, he's a very worst nightmare of mine. The thought of somebody breaking in while I'm not even home alone, really, just breaking in. I'd throw Matt out on the... We thought there was an intruder once, actually, and Matt wanted me to get out of bed. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm scary, but... I've never had a fight in my life, guys. Never. I could be weak as shit or hard as shit. I ain't got a clue. My friend tripped and fell onto the tracks, landing his face onto the third rail. We kind of stood there in absolute shock because we thought he was dead, but then he said, "Can I move? Will I be electrocuted?" We told him to move instantly and he did. We got him off the tracks and no less than 2 minutes later a train went zipping by. I think the third rail turned on seconds after his face came off it. I know that's not scary to... Yes, that is scary! But to me it was, because I would have lost a close friend back when I was about 12. That is scary! A guy I worked with was riding his dirt bike through the woods and somebody hung a cable wire between two trees. My buddy caught his throat on it and saw the dude steal his dirt bike. Woke up in the hospital with a lacerated throat and a broken larynx. Pretty crazy what somebody will do for something so cheap. People scare me. I mean, I say this a lot when I'm on paranormal investigations. The living scare me far more than the dead. When I read stories like this, I'm like, I breathe the same air as these people, these absolute freaks and weirdos in this world. Okay, 100% true as it happened to me. That makes it sound like they're being like, it happened to me so it's true. They're meaning that they were there so they know it's true because they saw or heard whatever with their own ears or eyes. Did that make sense? It's probably more spooky than scary. I'll let you be the judge. Okay, we're judging someone now. Many years ago, before there were cell phones, we had these things called pagers strapped to our hips. Someone would page you with their phone number and you would call them back when you got to a phone. As an on-call technician working in the audio-visual field, my pager would go off all the freaking time. Like most people who use pagers, our clients knew that if you followed up your number with a 911, that would indicate to the technician to stop what they were doing and call right away. Although I was always busy, I rarely, if ever, got 911s. One afternoon, travelling from Orlando to St. Petersburg via Interstate 4, my pager goes off with a number I don't recognise, followed by the 911. I find the first exit and pull into a little truck stop looking place outside of Plant City to use the payphone, sorry. This takes maybe 3 minutes tops. I walk in, ask for some change and head to the wall where there are 4 payphones to choose from. I pop my quarter in and dial the number displayed on the trusty pager. It rings and rings and rings, and rings. I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck, who would page me with a 911 and not answer their phone? It's just about then that I noticed another ringing sound in addition to the one in my ear. I pull the handset from my ear and 2 phones over on the wall, another payphone is ringing, but with an incoming call. I hang up my handset and the ringing stops on the other phone. I walk a few paces over, pick up the handset and look at the phone number printed above the buttons. I look at the number on my pager, I look at the number on the phone. I look at the number on my pager again, I look at the phone again. Except for the 911, they are identical. I kind of lose my breath for a second and then I make my way over to the girl at the counter and ask if she saw anyone use the payphone. She said I was the only person in the store in the last hour. The whole episode probably took 15 minutes, but man, I was freaked out. The hair on the back of my neck was standing straight up and I just wanted out of there. That is freaky because, like he said, a 911 is an emergency, so he quickly got there. So in the last hour, no one else had been to them payphones. And like he said there, the whole ordeal entirely took 15 minutes. That is freaky. Somebody knew that that was like a nearest emergency place for him to be, to deal with an emergency. That is freaky. I like it. I like a good freaky story. Oh, it goes on. I get about 10 miles down the highway and come upon a scene that looks like a bomb went off. 4-car pileup involving a tractor trailer hauling a load of steel that had come loose. State troopers and paramedics just arriving. I pulled over to the side and helped the best I could, but it was all pretty much over once it began. I have no idea why I got that page or from whom or what, but I'm convinced that if I hadn't, I would not be alive to write this today. Somebody warned him. Oh, it's a warning again from a loved one. I love these kind of stories. They're just like, they're really sweet. They're really sweet. Okay, this is a massively short one, but there was a woman who worked in a science lab who spilled 2 drops of organic mercury on the back of her gloved hand. Those 2 drops destroyed her entire nervous system and brain. Oh my days. There are some really big houses in the woods in my hometown. One of the owners went out drinking with his buddies and realised he forgot the key to the gate when he got home, so he decided to just climb the gate. While climbing in his drunken state, he slips and his leg gets pierced by one of the spikes on the gate. He was hanging there but too afraid to call for his wife, since he was sure she would just open the automatic gate from inside the house, and since it was one of those gates that slides to the side, it would just rip his leg off. He was hanging there the entire night until his wife woke up, saw him and called the fire department. My dad, who is one of the firefighters that showed up, said they had to saw off the spike to get him off. Just imagine hanging from your own gate all night and not being able to call for help. 1, ouch! 2, ouch! No. Okay, when I was a baby, my dad played on a softball team. Typical social team, out for beers and pizza, after with the guys, family event type thing. My parents were good friends with 2 of the other couples. Both of them had young kids as well. On this occasion, the other 2 couples had left their kids at one of their houses with a babysitter they were splitting. They invited my parents back to the house to have some more beers that night, but I was being fussy and my mum nixed the idea, though they would 100% have normally gone back to hang out. Well, it turned out my fussiness on that day saved our lives. When the other parents got back to the house, they walked in on a home invasion. 2 men had broken in, tied up the kids and the babysitter, and were waiting for the parents. Took the parents hostage as well and made the dads drive them to Banks grocery store. The dad managed to clear out accounts safe. They then came back to the house, oh my god, and killed both families. I'm not going to read anymore. Oh, that's really got to me. That is horrible. Oh, that's made me feel a bit sick, I'm not gonna lie. Years ago, when I was 8, my family lived in this big, weird house, kind of on the edge of a small town. The school district was in the middle of a big restructuring. The school district was in the middle of a big restructuring, so even though we were only a couple of grades apart, my brother and I went to different schools and took different buses. This left me as the last person to leave in the morning and the first person to get home in the afternoon, which meant it was my job to make sure all the lights were off and the door was locked. One morning I noticed the basement door was open and the light was on, so before I left I turned off the light and closed the door. When I got home that afternoon, the light was on and the door was open again. I just assumed that I'd forgotten to actually take care of it when I noticed it in the morning, so I went over to turn the light off and close the door. When I got to the top of the basement stairs, I looked and there was a big shadowy male figure towards the bottom of the stairs. I freaked out, slammed the door and pushed a bunch of boxes against it and then went and hid in my closet. For months I didn't tell my family because I was positive what I had seen was a ghost and didn't think anyone would believe me. Then about a year after that incident, my mom and her boyfriend realised that small amounts of money had been going missing for months, totaling around $800 to $900, but never more than $60 at once. So we all walked around the house with flashlights trying to figure out how they could have gotten in. Turns out some creep was climbing in through a small hole in the outside of the house, shimmying through a crawl space, then coming up into the house through the basement. Realising I'd been alone in the house with him on at least one occasion was one of the worst, most terrifying moments I've ever had. Yes, that is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. One more story, guys. My wife called me while I was at Walmart one day. She had a broken ankle and just had surgery on a hernia. Her mobility was like 5 out of 100. And of course, someone tried to break in. Her saving grace was yelling through the door that she was on the phone with cops. Really with me. I'm on the way home and I passed the guy to the exact description my wife gave me and the cops. I swerved his ass off his bike, hopped out the car and sat my fat ass on top of him until the cops got to where I was. Guy had a gun, rope, locks, tools. It could have been bad. Luckily, though, he ran, and with even more luck, we crossed paths. He could have went anywhere when he left my yard, but he came straight towards the Walmart I was leaving. That was 3 minutes away. Do you know what? There are so many close calls in this world. It is scary. There are some weird things that happen, and it is scary. I've creeped myself out, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, half of these weren't even ghost stories. They were to do with intruders and really nasty people, and it really has creeped me out. Have you enjoyed though this video, guys? I've really enjoyed doing this, and there will be some more coming up because I often find I delve into the internet quite a lot. But I am going to go now. I need to go and have a cup of tea because that has got to me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight, guys. I love it when you do. You're still here and you still haven't hit subscribe. Hit subscribe because spooky shit. And I will see you all in the next video. But until then,
Sleep tight.